Can we all turn our Bibles to Mark chapter 4, verse 35 to 40? This is a very familiar passage to all of us. Here we can see that Jesus and his disciples are on a boat and they're going to cross to the other side of the lake. So while they are in the boat, in the middle of the lake, a strong wind starts blowing and big waves start attacking the boat, causing the boat to fill with water. So the disciples are now really worried and they start panicking. And now you might be wondering, where's Jesus? Well, Jesus is in the boat, but he's in the back of the boat. He's sleeping with his head on a pillow. He's relaxed and he's having a good sleep in the middle of the storm. So the disciples are worried and they wake Jesus up and they ask him, "Don't you care that we're going to die?" So Jesus stood up and he commanded the waves, he commanded the winds, "Be still." And the wind ceased and there was a great calm. And then Jesus asked his disciples, "Why are you so fearful? How is it that you have no faith?" Have you ever been in situations where the size of your problems makes you forget that God is in control of our situations? If we could just imagine as if we were in the boat, we could understand that we would be reacting no differently than how the disciples reacted. When I was a child and when I heard this story, I wondered, why are these disciples overreacting? I mean, can't they see that Jesus is in the boat? God himself is in the boat and they're panicking. But now I know that I would be reacting no differently than them. If we could relate to this story, we can see that these storms represent some test God gives us in our life. I believe each test is an opportunity for us to grow closer to God. Before Jesus and his disciples crossed to the other side of the lake, we know that Jesus was performing miracles. He was healing the sick. He was teaching the kingdom of God using parables. He was answering the questions of people. So we see that the disciples weren't tested in their faith unless they started crossing the lake. So we also have situations in our life where God takes us to the other part of life to test us, to teach us some lessons. Do you think that Jesus knew about the storm before it happened? Of course, he know about the storm. How do we know this? Because during the storm, Jesus was in the he was in the back sleeping while the disciples were fighting for their life in the front. It's almost as if he wanted the disciples to see for themselves what they have learned from the lessons he taught them. Sometimes the storms comes into our life at unexpected times. One day you have everything and the next day you feel like you have lost everything. But Jesus have already warned us about this in John 16 verse 33. He says, "The world will make you suffer, but be brave, I have defeated the world." Depending on the size and intensity of our problems, we sometimes find ourselves doubting God. We even see the disciples asking Jesus, "Don't you care that we're going to die?" I have had situations in my life where I asked God the exact same question. Jesus rebuked to the wind and he said to the waves, "Be still." God also wants us to react to our problems the way Jesus did. But it is not entirely possible for us to be calm the way Jesus was. But God also he understands this and he's not expecting us to be perfect, but he do expect us to have a particular kind of faith, the faith that recognizes that he's in the boat. No struggles you have faced or is facing now or will face in the future is new to God. He knows what he has kept for us in this world, whether it be good or bad. He knew it all even before we were born. Sometimes we may feel that God is silent in our problems. We might be crying we might be complaining, we might be angry, sad, and wondering where He is. Problems are not for us to step back. It is for us to step into God's hands. We know that we're safe in God's hands. But being in God's hands does not mean that we don't have any problems. It means that we're safe. We're safe with Him. But there's also a chance that the attack in the boat was an attack by the devil, an attack meant to kill Jesus and His disciples. We also have situations where the devil brings attacks into our life. But Jesus rebuked the winds, and the winds calmed down. Just like that, we have to be still and rebuke the problems. He had authority over the winds and the storms. These kind of storms shows us that God is in control of our problems, and He will reveal to us who He is during those storms. We can see that Jesus asked His disciples, "Why are you so fearful, and how is that you have no faith?" But from those questions, we can understand that He's expecting us to not be afraid and to have faith in Him. We see a lot of verses in the Bible that says, "Do not be afraid." I had a similar experience like this last semester. It was during my first semester in the nursing program. I was really excited to start the program this past January, and I didn't really know what I was getting myself into, even though some of my friends here have already given me a heads up on what to expect. But by mid-semester, I was already having a hard time handling the classes. Almost everything was falling apart. When I say everything, literally everything was falling apart. I know only He could help me through that hard time. But it wasn't that same season that I became more closer to God. I did not hear from Him at that time, maybe because my head was just filled with thoughts, panics, and stress. But one day, I was having an emotional breakdown with God, and I was in my closet asking Him, "Why did you leave me in the middle of this difficult time?" But in the middle of all that noise, there was some silence for some time. The thoughts stopped, the closet was still, and in that silence, I felt a sentence came into my heart so clearly, and it was, "Jaimy, calm down and know that I am God." But at the time, I didn't know this was a Bible verse because I wasn't familiar with English verses. So I had to immediately search the phrase up and found that this was Psalms 46, verse 10. And I found that it is, "Be still and know that I'm God." And I understood this was truly from God. So this verse became my comfort and my stress reliever throughout the semester. So every time when something stressful came up about how the rest of the semester is going to be, I would remind myself, if God told me this, if He promised me this, then now it's His problem. My job was to stay still and to have faith in Him. So as I conclude, church, I want us to remember this. Storms aren't signs that God have left us. They're signs that He's still with us. Just like the disciples, we might panic, we might complain and wonder if He cares. But the truth is, He does care, and He's in control of our situations. Some storms aren't meant to break us, they're meant to build us. These are the moments that will push us closer to God and remind us how much we need Him. So when you feel anxious, when you feel that everything is out of control, just don't forget who is in your boat, and that is Jesus. And don't forget what He has already told us. Be still and know that I am God. May God bless you with His words.
നിങ്ങളുടെ യൂട്യൂബ് ചാനൽ വിസിറ്റ് ചെയ്ത എല്ലാവർക്കും യേശുക്രിസ്തുവിന്റെ നാമത്തിൽ സ്നേഹവന്ദനം. ഈ വീഡിയോ നിങ്ങൾക്കൊരു അനുഗ്രഹമായി എന്ന് ഞങ്ങൾ വിശ്വസിക്കുന്നു. അങ്ങനെയെങ്കിൽ ലൈക്ക് ചെയ്യാനും നിങ്ങളുടെ പ്രിയപ്പെട്ടവർക്ക് ഷെയർ ചെയ്യാനും മറക്കണ്ട. ഇതുപോലെയുള്ള വീഡിയോകൾ കാണുവാൻ നിങ്ങൾ ഇവിടെ ക്ലിക്ക് ചെയ്യുക. തുടർന്നുമുള്ള വീഡിയോകൾ മിസ് ചെയ്യാതിരിക്കാൻ സബ്സ്ക്രൈബ് ചെയ്യാനും മറക്കണ്ട. ഗോഡ് ബ്ലെസ്.